Bonsoir, bienvenue dans Candid Conversations. Nous allons parler des topics en pile monde haïtien parler sous ça. Welcome back to the Candid Conversation Show. My name is Muriel, and on the show, we're going to discuss topics that are unspoken and taboo in our community. Our guest tonight is Marjorie Phoenix. We will be discussing abuse, healing, advocacy, and more.
Welcome to the show, Marjorie.
Thank you, ladies. I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We want to jump right in. We want to know, how was it like growing up as Marjorie as a child, and then take us up until adulthood?
Sure. Well, I grew up in the Bahamas.
Okay.
So I spent the first, both of my parents are from there, so I spent the first 12 years of my life in the Bahamas.
Okay.
Moved to the States and lived in Miami.
Okay.
So for those of you that know Miami, I was all across South Florida, from Homestead, Goulds, to Opelika, all the way up to Carroll City. Yes, we moved around a lot. And then after leaving there, I was moving to Atlanta at the age of 22, and I decided that I was going to go to Atlanta and go to Spelman College. And found out I was pregnant with my first child.
So it made some
So that derailed me.
Yes, just a little.
Yes, but I went to Atlanta anyway and lived there for 12 years. That's where I met my now ex-husband.
Okay.
We got married, moved back to Florida.
Okay.
And was married for about 7.5 years, and that ended very traumatically. That's another story. And then I moved here to Orlando about 3 years ago.
Okay.
So that's really the origin of my story.
Okay.
But there are many layers, right, to who we are, different parts of our stories. And it's so funny that just the other day I was sharing on social media a part of my story that a lot of people didn't know. And I shared that at a young age, I was molested by a family member.
So sorry to hear that.
And then not too long after that, I would say in my early teens, I was sexually violated by a family friend.
Oh, no.
And then in my later teens, I was sexually assaulted by someone that I knew. So all of this sort of like was this foundation that was building up inside of me that brought me to the point where I ended up marrying someone that was controlling, a narcissist, and emotionally abusive.
I understand. I've been there. I'm so sorry you had to experience that.
Yeah, but it's interesting that those are usually some of the catalysts that happen in our lives, and we can see, now that I sit back and I reflect on my life and how did I get there and why did I get there, I sort of see how all of those played a part in that.
So how long were you married to him?
We were married for about 7.5 years. We dated for about 6 years prior.
The control wasn't there.
It wasn't there. It was, and it was different. It was really different because we were younger. He was in college, and I was a young mother. But I could definitely say that I saw some red flags. Okay.
Yes,
I saw the flags.
That's my story.
That was her title.
Yes.
But ignored it.
Yes. We all see the red flags.
Yes.
But I wasn't really able to recognize it in that way because no one had told me what those red flags look like, right? So I didn't know how to identify them. And then the other piece of that too was because of my childhood, when I think back at my childhood, it's sort of like a silent movie. right? I felt invisible in some ways.
Were you the only child?
No, I was the oldest of three.
Okay.
But when I was little, I remember everyone used to dote on me. Oh, she's so adorable, she's so cute, and give me all this attention. And so I started to retreat back because of that and because of the touching and stuff that was happening, right?
Okay.
So I wanted to be invisible.
Yeah.
And then as things happened, I noticed that I didn't have a voice. Like, I can't tell you what my personality was as a child.
Yes.
Couldn't be yourself?
Exactly. You know, so all of that, I think about with my childhood, how that sort of affected and molded the type of young woman that I became.
Absolutely.
And so, and I didn't have anyone also to speak into my life.
Okay.
To
We
tell
need that,
me,
don't we?
yes, to tell me my self-worth.
Yes.
You know, to help build my confidence.
Right.
And so that opened me up to be prey.
You mentioned as a child you were sexually abused. Can you touch on that for us, please?
Well, we
Much
don't
as you
talk
can.
about it
Right.
in the family. People know that it happened. Without trying to
Right,
say
just
too
say,
much,
yeah.
I can say this much. It was happening before I could even put a full sentence together. Okay, and
Really? Like
yes.
1, 2.
Probably, yeah. Okay. And then I know the day that I said no. I remember this distinctly as I got up in the middle of the night to go to get something to drink. And they came. And they were going to go at it again. And I knew it. And then I said no.
Because you were getting older.
Yes. And in that, it stopped.
Because they knew probably at that time you would start to speak. You would tell someone.
Yes. And it's important for young children to know the power of no.
Yes.
Someone is, you know, touching them inappropriately. Yeah.
It was multiple people or just?
It was just this one family member. Yeah, it was just the one family member. And I know that I wasn't the only child in the family as well. So,
That person was sick. They needed help.
yeah.
They needed help.
Yeah.
And maybe at that time, you think you probably didn't have the courage to even say anything to your parents.
For years.
You were probably scared and didn't want to say anything.
years. I mean, well into my adulthood before it was even spoken.
Spoken of.
Actually, it all sort of came up after the divorce and everything.
Oh,
okay.
Yes,
I see.
through my healing. Yeah.
Yes. But did you know it was wrong at the time? Is that why?
Yes, it felt wrong. It felt wrong. Yes, it did not feel right. You know, and something instinctively within us, we know. We know the difference between love, right and wrong, and love and what's not love.
Right.
You know? So yeah, I could feel it.
Do you see that person from time to time or growing up after you had said the no?
I did.
And it stopped.
I did.
But over the years,
Yeah,
you
I've
just
seen them,
ignored,
yeah.
basically. Do you know if they ever got any help?
No. No.
I hope they're not still doing this to other people.
No, yeah, I hope so too. And you know, it's one of those things again in the family, especially in the Caribbean.
Right.
You handle it within the family.
Yeah.
Yes, you keep your mouth shut.
Yes.
Keep talking in the house. That's it. Don't discuss your business with anybody else.
Exactly.
Yeah. Isn't that awful?
Yeah, it is. And it doesn't really help for those victims that are
Right.
going through it. It's just like, how then do you deal?
Right.
How then do you heal? You know?
Yeah, that's not fair.
Yeah, exactly.
But they didn't know. You know, my sister wrote something the other day saying how your parents can only teach you what they know.
Yes.
Say exactly what it was.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
that makes
basically it's
sense.
what they know, so that's what they're,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah, they're doing the best that they can with
Yes,
what they
it's
have.
not their fault.
Exactly.
Yes, it's a repetitive cycle.
Yes.
So until you educate yourself,
Yes.
and like we're sharing with the audience these stories, maybe they can see this and seek help themselves.
Right. Yes.
Like now with you, with me, we know what we didn't like and what we went through,
Right.
so we speak to our children.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
We speak to our children. We're not going to
Exactly.
keep it quiet. No, don't keep it
Yes.
quiet. You're not going to be quiet about it.
Tell me about it. Talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. I don't care what that other person says. It's going to happen
Yeah.
to you. If they say something, say it.
Yes. And for them to know that there's a safe space
Yes.
for them
Yes,
to be able
absolutely.
to
That's
interact. Yeah.
Speaking of safe space, your parents, I think you said as an adult, that's when they found out? What was their
Well,
reaction?
I'll tell you, we never really talked
Okay,
about it.
okay.
You just know it was something had
Yes,
happened.
exactly.
Islands. That's how it
That's how
is.
they- yeah.
In the Caribbean, that's just how it is.
Yeah. So we never really talked about it in that way to have some closure.
Right.
But it was brought up and it was acknowledged, and then everyone moved on. So I
Yes.
knew then that it
Okay.
was mine,
Yes.
my experience.
And now you have to, now
Yes,
Marjorie has
yeah.
to do the healing.
Exactly.
You had to learn
Yeah.
what to do,
Yeah.
how to do.
Yeah.
And how did you do that? Did you seek any type of help, counseling, therapy?
So, well, there was so much going on that I really had to deal with after my divorce. So it was through that process of really trying to find myself again.
Okay.
And understanding why this happened to me, right? And not that I was at blame for anything, but just understanding the patterns
Okay.
that brought me to that place.
Right.
So there was some talk therapy, but honestly, everything was through my relationship with God.
There you go.
Okay.
It was just me
There you go.
surrendered at a
Proceeds,
point
everything.
where I knew if I was going to find out who I was, I had to do it through
Yeah.
God.
Yes.
He was going to show me,
Wow.
right?
Yes.
So that's where it all begins.
I want to know, you said your husband, ex-husband, was controlling. Can you tell us what it was like in the household? To give us some examples.
Well, we were what you would call the quintessential American family.
Yes,
he
ma'am.
was he made very good money, and the white picket fence.
Yes.
We built our home. I stayed at home with the
You
children.
kept your mouth shut. You did
Oh,
what you were supposed to
definitely.
do.
Cook, clean.
Yes,
Yes.
Took care of the kids.
I took very good
understand.
care of my family, and I took pride in doing that.
Absolutely.
So he paid all of the bills, but in doing that, there was always his money.
It was like you were the child. And
Yes,
he
yes, yes. And he set up like 3 or 4 different accounts, and then he would just, after everything is done, then he would give me my allowance. I never traveled by myself or with the children, just us. He was always there.
was always there.
Yeah.
He was jealous.
I wouldn't say he was jealous, but he was just controlling about our time and where we went and
Okay.
who we spent that time with.
So if you went to the store, would he?
Not so much
Okay,
the store,
okay.
but just if I'm going to leave the area
I see,
to go
okay.
visit my mom
Okay.
or something
Okay.
like that. He would have to be there. And even when I had a family reunion, he didn't want to go, so we never went.
But you know why he did that, though? Because he wanted total control over
Of
you.
course.
Because if you went by yourself to a family member or a friend,
Yeah.
They're gonna
they would
influence
probably
you.
say, "Are you sure? Is everything okay?"
Well, yes.
It's not.
Yes. And that
Absolutely.
started to happen. My mother would visit and she would notice, and my mother, she's not one for
Right.
holding her tongue.
Right.
So she would speak up,
Yeah.
and he did not like that. So, of course, he never wanted me to visit her on my own. Of
course not.
You know, so anytime there was someone that noticed and spoke up, they were
Cut ties.
isolated. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that sort of thing. So, just very financially controlling, and just in the way he spoke to me, he was college educated,
Okay.
and I was not at the time.
So
and
he spoke to you like you were- you had no
I
sense,
couldn't
no
make
common
I
sense.
couldn't make good decisions for the family. I couldn't make good decisions
Right.
for the children. I could have no say.
Right, 'cause you
in the
didn't know
finance,
anything.
'cause I didn't.
You didn't have a
He was
degree.
smarter. He had a degree,
Exactly.
and you were smarter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We
So
share
how did that make you feel inside, though?
I felt there was a part of me that believed him. There was a part of me that knew better. And so that other part of me that knew better, I would spend a lot of time reading and trying
Okay.
to educate myself.
Okay.
But then the other part of me that believed him would just retreat to it. I would just resign to it.
Right.
You know, and I wouldn't fight or challenge. I would just let
Just let it
things
go.
be
Yeah.
the way they were for the peace of the home.
But you know why? I can answer that question for you. I know why. It's because the bills were being taken care of.
Oh, yes.
You had no worry
No,
Yes.
financially.
complain about.
Yes.
You and the kids were good.
Yes.
You didn't work. All you
Yes.
had to do was clean the home,
Yes.
cook and clean.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
And everything was taken care of
Everything
for
was
you.
taken care of.
So it's almost like being at home, a child again with
Yeah.
mom and dad.
Yeah.
Everything's being taken care of me.
Yeah.
I can ignore that.
Yeah.
I can
yeah.
I can excuse that.
Yeah,
I can ignore that.
There's something about that sense of security too, because even though I knew the way he spoke to me, the tone he used,
Right.
even in our sexual relationship, there was something that was still demeaning there.
Right.
But it was familiar, right?
Yes.
And then the other part of it was filling this void that I felt like I never had, right? So it was
Right.
sort of twisted
Right.
in a way. And I think that's what happens with a lot of women when we had that pattern of sexual abuse, then we get into an abusive relationship and marriage. We're trying to find
Right.
something
Yes.
there that's been broken in a way,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Thinking that, okay, maybe this is the fix. This is my fix.
Yeah, because obviously I can't do this life thing by myself.
By myself. No. You can't afford. I can't afford it,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I can't afford it. I need him.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to pay for this or that or
Exactly.
take care of the children.
Exactly, yeah. So, but once I said to him that I realized at this point that it was time to go, that I had to go.
Oh, you said it.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
how did he react?
Well, he first he said, let's wait until after the holidays, because it was in October that I told him. He said, let's wait till after the holidays so we can make this a good transition for the girls. But all the time in the background, he was meeting with an attorney, trying to
preparing.
figure out
How to make sure you have nothing.
exactly,
Right.
exactly. And I played right into it.
You didn't know.
I didn't know.
You didn't know. How
Something
cruel.
that sticks out in your mind that occurred as far as his abuse that impacted you?
Oh, well, when it's really started towards the end, when I was like, I've had enough here, I would be in bed sleeping and he would be out into the living room sipping his Cavassier and on the laptop. I don't know what he's doing. And then he would just break into the bedroom, turn on the lights, strip the covers off me and start accusing me of, you know, sleeping with
With other
people.
people.
Yes. And it was like torture. It would happen, you know, frequently. And I was at the point where I'd get up and I would drive to the beach.
Right. Just to get away.
Just to
That's
get
my place too. The
away.
beach,
Yeah.
the water.
Yeah, that's where I would
waves, the
go. And then it was like a recurring thing, you know, every time he would drink and then this would happen.
Right.
And yeah.
So what finally ended up happening? What was the final straw?
Well, one night he did that, and I came back. I was sleeping on the couch, and then he comes back and sits on the couch next to me, and then asks to make love to me. And he thought that was okay.
I'm not interested, sir.
Yeah, you know, and so I could see in his eyes, it was like something's not there.
Right.
You know, and I started to also be afraid because he was sick a lot. And when I say sick, like he was throwing up. This is what I know. And so he was missing work. And I said to him, I said, you really need to go and see what's going
Right, go
on
to the
here.
doctor.
Well, that morning he looked at me and he said, if something should happen to me, I have a mind to leave a note to say to hold you responsible.
Oh my goodness. It's like you're sleeping with the enemy.
Yeah,
You were sleeping with
Wow.
the enemy at that point.
yeah. And that just really,
Yes,
yeah.
that was it.
Yeah.
So I've got to get
Yeah,
myself out
because
of here.
how do I know what this man is doing?
What is
He's capable of.
doing?
Yes.
My goodness.
Yes, I couldn't trust him.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you left, how did you make it? You know, here you are, you're not working.
Yeah.
He's working, he's paying all the bills, and then finally you're like, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'm getting out
Had
of
it.
this.
Yeah, yeah.
So tell me how did Marjorie survive? How did she make it?
Right. By the grace of God,
Yes.
I can say that.
thank God.
Yeah, because I was stripped of
Everything.
everything. And so I stayed with a friend for several weeks until they realized that apparently they couldn't keep me. And my
Any longer.
oldest daughter, she was there as well, because she's not his child.
Okay.
Yeah, so at that point I decided, well, I'm going to have to go into a shelter. So I found some place for her to be in the meantime, because she
Okay.
was still in high school.
Okay.
Although she was 18 and a legal adult, she was still in high school. So, and I had decided to do that. And so the community rallied around me. And this was God at work. I mean, people just came around me. I had a friend who she sent me the money to move into an apartment.
wonderful.
I mean, who does that?
Too many people.
You know?
You have a good heart.
Yes.
God sent those angels.
I'm telling you, and just being grateful for that, and then one thing after another, God just started revealing Himself. We furnished our entire apartment from things that people brought to us.
So happy for you. That was
Everything,
wonderful.
It is.
you know.
There's some good people out there.
There are some good people. And even though I still had to be able to, keep the lights on, pay the rent,
course.
all these things, right? There's always something you read in the book. There's always these instances where I will go. I don't know how it's going to happen.
But it's going to happen. It's going to work out. Then all of a sudden it happens.
Yes.
Like, thank you, Lord.
Even my landlord, after being there several months, I had lost a job. I was working at Cracker Barrel.
Yes.
And I had to do what I had to do, but it still wasn't enough, right? And then I had lost a job, and then I went to him and I said, I cannot pay the rent. I cannot pay the rent. I don't know how I'm going to stay here. And he said to me, you know what? Just make sure the lights stay on. You got food in here for you and the girls, and you pay me what you can when you can.
That's nice.
Now, let me tell you, when it was all said and done, I owed this man $8,000 and back rent.
What? He let you stay there all that time?
I paid little here and there.
Yeah.
But that's how much that rent went up to. And when I tell you,
You paid him
I
back every
paid
cent.
him, what? He looked at me and he said, I would not have done this for anyone else, but I could see in you.
Yes.
It was nothing but God.
Yes.
Yes,
It
it
really
is.
was, because nobody does that.
No.
$8,000.
Yes. Yeah. So how I survived during that time was really, like I said, the grace of God, all of these different miracles, all of these people that showed up in my life for reasons that I didn't understand then.
Yes.
But now I
Now
see
you-
why. Yeah. And so that gave me the opportunity to then start healing.
There you go.
Because it's difficult to heal when you're trying to
Absolutely.
survive.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and you're going through a divorce case, and you're dealing with this still abusive person, and all these different things. And I had been a stay-at-home mom with my daughter for 6 years.
See?
So here it was, I'd gone from being a full-time mom to not even part-time.
Exactly.
Not even part-time. So I'm thinking not just about missing her, but then I'm wondering, how is she doing? How is she
doing?
handling
Right.
this?
Yes.
You know?
That's true.
So it was a lot.
But you're standing. You're still
I
here.
am.
You are still here.
Yes, thank
You
God.
So, in your story, we see how you wrote a book.
Yes.
Tell us about the book. I won't even say the name. I'll let you say it.
I know. Who the hell do you think you are?
Who do you think you are?
Yeah, I know that title is somewhat tough to swallow sometimes, but the reason is I'm actually quoting my ex-husband.
Wow.
He said that to me. So that's how the title came about. I was sitting across the dining room table from him, and I was sharing with him. I said, I think I want to do some work. I want to work with single moms. I want to work with women, and just trying to share. And he looked at me and asked, who the hell do you think you are?
Really?
So, have you ever had a chance to come to him and say,
This is you are.
this
This is who I am.
I have not, but the book says it all.
It says it all.
I hope he has read every
It
page.
says it all. Okay.
That's a wonderful title.
Yes, I answered it.
I need to read
You should have brought it.
Yes, I did bring a copy
Okay,
for you guys.
good.
Yeah,
Thank
but
you.
and I answered it in the book, and I wrote the book, not just because I wanted to share my story, because it was really difficult
course.
for
It's your
me.
healing.
It was my healing, but it was also, I'll never forget God saying to me, "It's not about you."
Oh, my goodness.
It's not.
He said that this book, I want them to know, others that are going to go through it, have gone through it, that the same way I was there for you,
I'll be there for
I
them.
will be there for
Beautiful.
them.
Beautiful.
Goodness. I love it.
So then I knew, okay, this is a mandate. I don't have nothing to do with this.
Nope.
I'm just going to write it out. And it just so happened that I had been journaling.
Okay.
All the time.
So I was able to go in and just, yes, exactly. And so I didn't realize how much a big part of the healing process the book would have been as
Yes.
well.
Yes.
And the doors that it opened up as far as when I go out with the book, women would say, that happened happened to me too.
That's right.
There's so many people.
Yeah.
So many.
That's right. A lot of women don't want to say anything
No.
until they hear
Somebody else's story.
Someone else's story.
Yes.
Once they hear it, they're like,
And it gives them the
It
courage.
happened to me too, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
It happened to me too, but it wasn't.
Yes. Yes.
It happened to you.
It happened to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, it happened to you.
Yeah. And I really feel like when it happens to one of us, it's happening to us all
That's
in
right.
some
We're all
way.
women.
Yes, we're all connected.
That's
And
right.
that's how I started to see this. And I said, okay, God is up to something. Actually, God was up to something that night I was in the jail.
That's what I was going to
Wait a minute.
mention.
What jail? Wait a minute. What jail? What happened?
Tell us what happened.
So yes, that he had me arrested for throwing the wedding album at him that morning. So he knew what he was doing. He triggered me enough by spewing words at me and calling me names
of
and all. Yeah, and so he knew what he was doing, and I snapped and I
Yes.
threw the wedding album.
Yes.
It didn't hit him, but it was enough for him to retreat into the bathroom and call the police.
Because he was scared.
He was scared.
scared.
For his life.
Really?
And so the police came, they took our statements, and they were just going to file a report with the district attorney's
Right.
office. But then when I was getting into the car and taking the girls to school, the police officer stopped me, and he said that, I'm sorry, but your husband is adamant
He wants to press
about
charges.
pressing
Stop it.
charges.
How could he let
hateful.
that happen in front
Right
of
in
children?
front of the children.
Oh, no.
So
type of
when
person
they
think about
took
that?
me to jail, the police officer thought that I would be arraigned in a few hours and
course.
be able to get out, but I ended up getting there and I couldn't. I had to spend 24 hours in jail.
What was that like?
That was very traumatic
Yes.
for me because I'd never been in a police car. I'd never
No.
been in a jail. I just didn't know what to expect. And I just spent the entire time crying and praying and I couldn't eat. But as I was sort of talking with all the other women in the space, I realized that the majority of them were in there because of some altercation with a man, right? Their stories again, right?
Right.
So I get out the next day, 24 hours later, and then come to find out I can't go back to my
The
home.
locks have changed, or you just
No, I cannot go back to the house. And he had filed a restraining order.
Well, what type of person is this? That it's your home, you're
Yeah.
a woman,
Yes.
and now
Your
you
children.
cannot go back
But
into
I
your
am
home.
apparently I am the perpetrator, so this is just how the laws are. And
Yes.
he knows this. He knows all of this.
course.
So he can file a restraining order to keep me away. They're going to give him that. And then he emptied out the bank account.
Wow.
Because he was in control of it to begin with
Yes.
anyway.
Wow.
Yes, yes.
So you had nothing.
I had nothing. I had nothing.
What did you do? You had nothing. You were homeless, basically.
I was homeless, and I remember, just when they released me out of there and the gates opening up, and I was just walking with just the clothes on my back and my wallet,
Wow.
and I had no family in the area. You knew this. I had no family.
You had nobody.
I had nobody.
You only had him.
Yes.
And then now
Yes.
he turned his back.
Yes.
On you.
Yes. So, and even with the overnight experience in the jail, which was traumatic alone, there's so much happened after that. I had no idea what the next 2 years was going to be bringing me. That's how long that whole ordeal lasted.
You had to be depressed.
Depressed, PTSD,
Absolutely.
everything. And every time I thought that I was making some headway with my healing, there was always something else that would trigger me, right? And that is how the things from my childhood started to pop up.
Come out.
These things started to pop up. So it's like all of these layers were now coming
yeah, they
off,
were
right?
coming
Yes. So it was like a self-discovery process for years.
Yes.
And how
Yes.
long after that did you start realize? When did you realize that?
I would say it within the first 6 months I started to realize it because
After coming out of jail?
yes, because it took me a while. I was trying to get my head around. I'm on welfare now. I'm on food stamps. I've got to go and ask the church for food for the
help.
food pantry.
you
I've
needed
got to do all of these things.
You needed help.
Yeah. So that's where I was focused.
You are so strong.
Yes, you're
You are so
very
strong.
Thank you.
And look at you now.
Yes, yeah.
Look at you, Marjorie.
You should be proud of yourself.
You've come a long way. Oh my gosh. I'd love to hear the story.
You want
I
to
know
flip,
you went through
flip
a
it.
lot.
We just have her talking about this. We want to talk about your nonprofit organization.
That's right,
Before we get out of
definitely.
here.
Yes. That started. It started off as the Forgotten Women Project because I really wanted it to be about the victims of emotional and psychological abuse, financial abuse. That seems like the forgotten group of women
Yes.
who don't have that protection from the court system.
That's right.
Right, because they don't really. If you're not been hit,
Exactly.
you get no protection.
Right.
Right. So we started it because the Lord brought me to the arts as
Okay.
a part of my healing. Right.
I like that.
And so as I started to get stronger with it, I knew that this could help other women. So that's why I started the organization. And we just renamed the organization Giving Voices Project last year because now we want to open it up to all the voices
Okay.
of people
Yes.
who have experienced abuse in some way. So we tell their stories through theater, spoken word, music, wearable art.
Oh, wow.
Is this a location that you
No, we don't have a specific location. We work with different organizations,
Okay.
institutions. Like our last project was with Stetson University, where we
Okay.
did a wearable art show.
Oh, okay.
We work with art centers. So we're looking this October for Domestic Abuse Awareness a month to do a wearable art show. And so the clothes will depict the stories of the survivors.
Beautiful.
please
Yeah.
include us? I
Thank
would love
you
to
so
see
much.
that part.
Definitely.
Can you tell them quickly how to get in touch with you? We got to get out of here.
Yes, definitely. So you can find me on Facebook at Marjorie Phoenix, actually all over social media, Marjorie Phoenix. You can go to my website, marjoriephoenix.com, and email me at marjorie@marjoriephoenix.com.
Thank you so much for being here. I'm sure you're.
We didn't have enough time.
Yes.
I know, definitely.
She's going to have to come back.
Part two.
That's right.
All right. We hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
We want to thank you, the viewers, for tuning in. Please tune in next Tuesday for another inspirational story. In closing, there are many obvious signs of mental and emotional abuse. But when you are in it, it's not easy to see it, and you miss it with the abusive behavior. The abuser can be your